So this is a reaction that Manu Tuilagi is now out of the England team, just hours after being named in the England team. I was going on about in my selection video how it brings balance to the midfield, how it's such a great thing and I'm looking forward to it, and now he's pulled his hamstring yet again. Now I feel sorry for Tuilagi, for sure it's not his fault, but it does put England in a tight spot. Now they're bringing Marchant in, which makes sense because he was in that 25-man squad, but it does give England the problem again that they've got a very small midfield with no real power runners. They're going to have to use Jack Nowell to jink in and out the ruck and maybe bring Freddie Stewart in now and then. But really, in the midfield, you haven't got anyone who hits the line really hard, or certainly it's not their natural way of playing. Now, England, I guess, could have called Atkinson in, and I'll talk about some of these options in a minute. But firstly, the reason I think this is kind of the final thing is because if you have repeated hamstring injuries, it's just a slippery slope. The hamstring controls the extension of the leg. Sure, it concentrically bends the leg, flexes the leg, but at the knee it actually controls the extension, and it's a sudden spike in power, which is why hamstrings go suddenly. And then if they heal with some scar tissue, that's inflexible. So when you get that sudden spike in power, the area that doesn't flex is the one that rips, so you tend to rip the hamstring in the same place again and again. And sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Even if you do all your rehab, it's just going to keep on going. And it looks like Tuilagi might be in that position right now. So I think it's just too dangerous. In some ways, it's maybe a bit of a positive, because if that happened in the game, that would have set England back a lot more than it happening now. So I guess that's one way to look at it. But let's have a look at England's options. If it's time to move on, which I think now it is, who do they play at 12? This is a video I've kind of been planning for a while, so I'm going to go through some of the options and some of the comments I have on some of these players. I'm going to go through what I think, and I'd love to know what you think. So, here are the four guys I'm going to talk about mainly. First of all there, Mark Atkinson. Is he a power player? Well, not really, but he's a big guy who's a handful if he hits the line. He's got lovely hands, a good offload. He's kind of like a big Will Greenwood type player-ish, but he definitely has a physical presence, so that would give you some size. But every time Eddie has him in the squad, he doesn't pick him for the team, so it doesn't look like he fancies him too much. Is it because he's not quite quick enough? Is it because of his age? If that is the case, why have him in the squad at all, I guess you could say. Let's go on to Sam Simmons, because this is the name that keeps popping up again and again and again in the comments. And indeed, I've kind of name-dropped him as well, saying, wouldn't it be great if he was a centre? Which he isn't, of course. Now, does he have the physical attributes to play in the centre? Absolutely. And if he'd made the decision to become a centre when he was a young flanker, and there were loads of stories about him struggling a bit in the men's game, being a smaller flanker, but he stuck at it, and obviously it's come good for him at Exeter and now England, so in that respect, great decision. But if he could foresee somehow the fact that England have no big 12s, maybe he'd be starting for England if he had become a 12. But he's not. And it's very hard to force that experience of all the situations you're going to be in as a centre, and also all the skills, all the different subtleties that you need as a centre. And I think it's just a bit desperate, and England do have a few options. I don't think they need to do it. However, maybe on the bench, if he's going to come on for 10 minutes at 12 as a bit of a shock tactic, I think that might be a way to go. But to start him, to try and train him up super quick for the World Cup, is basically desperation, although, it's nice to dream a bit. If you think it's possible, please do let me know, though. The third option, Ollie Lawrence. Now, Eddie Jones tried him a few times, didn't like what he saw, maybe in training he wasn't too happy, but Ollie Lawrence probably physically is the closest type of player to Manu Tuilagi. Very powerful, quick, likes busting lines. He could be someone to stick with and hope he gets better and better. So at the moment he's kind of out in the wilderness, but definitely could be an option. Option 4, which is the one I think they 100% should have gone through, and indeed that's what I said in all my selection videos, to be fair, so please do go back and watch that because I'm not making it up now. But I think Dan Kelly was absolutely the man to bring in. At under-20s levels for Ireland, he was unbelievable. Now, of course, it takes a while to translate that into the men sometimes, often due to the physicality, but he's doing it at Leicester. He hits the line hard, and he's also got great hands and passing game. He is a different type of player to Tuilagi, but you do get someone who can hit the line, take it up, and also play and create. I really think it makes a lot of sense. Sure, he's not going to be at his best right now because he's so young, but they've brought in Freddie Stewart, Marcus Smith, etc., Harry Randall. I think it would be fine to bring in another and just go for it, because I think he's absolutely the best option and could be absolute class. So that's what I would go. I'd get Kelly in. However, he's not in the squad, so I think it all points back to one guy being England's first choice 12 again, and that's this man here, Owen Farrell. He's an experienced player, but of course what you don't get is power. He's not a big line hitter, although he tries super hard. He's not very quick. He's a very experienced fly half with a great passing and kicking game, and he's hard as nails, but he's nowhere near as powerful as TUILAGI or indeed some of those other centres there. So we're kind of back to the beginning. 13's not a problem, I don't think. Slade, Marchant, maybe Northmore. There's some other players kicking around, but it's that 12, and they've got to sort it out. I think Kelly's the man to bring in, but I think it's going to go all the way back to Owen Farrell. And also, I think they should stop now with TUILAGI. I think it's just a stretch too far. His swan song was the 2019 World Cup. He had a great World Cup, played the whole World Cup, and of course, culminating for him probably in that semi-final where he scored that opening try against the All Blacks. That's what he'll be remembered for, I hope, not all the injuries. So I think time to move on, but who would you go for, or would you give him another chance because you think he is so important? Anyway, guys, all those comments below, and I'll catch you next time.